Hello and welcome back. Today I want to talk about binoculars and how to use them, which type of differences you would have, and how you can see what an old binocular is and when it's time to replace it with a new one, how you can adjust them and things like that. Binoculars, it's a long story. So we would have since ages already these long ones on ships. You remember in old films, old movies, they would have the captain is looking on this in this big thing. So you would have a lens on one side, a couple of other lenses in the middle, and then the lens on the other side, and that would bring it to your eyes through a black tunnel. In fact, that's what's happening, and it's still happening. So you would have the light coming in, coming out to your eye, and you can interpret it. Of course, that was a bit clumsy. If you would go bird watching now with a thing like that, it's too difficult. So what they did over time, they folded it. So already the old ones, you would have them, which you could turn and twist and then make a longer one. And later on, they have started with this, the one of the original ones. By the way, if you have an old binocular or a normal binocular somewhere in your house, please stop the video now and get it somewhere, because I will explain later on a few tricks about it. So if you have somewhere an old binocular, stop the video and we'll see you just in a minute back on this. So if you have the old type of binoculars, what they did, the light comes in, and then they found a prisma. And in the prisma, the light comes back, is folded here, there's another prisma, and goes back here. So it's the same length, it's just folded up. So that was a quite handy thing to find out, to develop. And later on, they did it the same way, but then the folding they did inside. So the light is going this way, it's folded up here, there's another prisma, so here's a prisma, there's a prisma, and it goes back here. So it's still the same length. You would, if you fold it out, you would have binoculars of here. And what I said, binoculars, before it was monocular, and now, of course, everyone has binoculars. Instead, unless you would have problems with your eye, there are still monoculars. If you have just one eye, why would you buy binoculars for the other one? There are people who have that. But usually, nowadays, you would have binoculars. So if you have an old one and you have found it now, let's check whether it's still good enough. So what you do, I have here a very old one. I bought this when I was 14, and then what you can see, the old system here. This is a problem. A problem which can happen is this is a bit fragile here. You can twist this off, and I wouldn't recommend to do so, but that's how it is constructed. They twist the part on it, and if it falls, then it gives this little bump on it, and you would have binoculars that go like this, and they have their eyes, crossed eyes. So that's a problem, and we can check it out. So what you would do first, if you have your old binocular or your new one, just check whether it's still good enough. You start just without installing it for yourself, whether the system itself is good enough. Start with this wheel on top. This is to make it sharp, to focus. And if this is like this one is very difficult to turn, that means that if you see a bird somewhere and it's very difficult to get it sharp, the bird will be gone before you are in focus. So forget about it if that's happening. It's time to reflect on something else. This is also not a good sign. We have these rubber things which are dry and they break. And this is, unless you want to use it without, but otherwise it is not very comfortable. But this is a detail. Then to check whether it's clean, you turn it around and you look into a spot, a light bulb, or not the sun itself, but a bright sky or white thing, very clear, and you can see in it whether there are pieces or whether it's misty or foggy or whether there is molds and mushrooms and things growing in. And if that's the case, then most often you're lost, but you can try to clean it here with a wipe for glasses here and here, but inside you cannot do a lot about it. So if it's all gone blue and misty and if the white is not as white as what it should be, that's also a good reason to think of something else. And then the last reason, it's most often probably that I see people with binoculars, they have fallen over time, they have bumped somewhere, even if they are in cases, they still can be damaged. And then the lenses somewhere, they have been touched and then the focus is gone. And how you check that is you take them a bit at arm length, you look for something which is which has a line, so I have a line there. And you see between one and the other, you toggle a bit from one side to the other, and you see whether that line, so you would see two rounds with a line in the middle, and whether that line, it goes still like this. In some cases it goes like this or that, or and then so that line, it means the one of these lenses, they have had a bump and it's out of focus. If that's the case, your eyes will do the same and you get really headache over time. So that's also a good reason to think of replacing a binocular, a pair of binoculars, I must say. And then, if that's the case, or if you don't have any and you want to reflect on one, how do you choose one? There are so many. This is just a little collection of mine. You would have here 3 categories. You would have the little ones, the lightweight ones. They're just the difference is the only color. These are the ones I use here on the bird walks. You have in all in all qualities. In fact, there are very good ones. Most of them, they are mediocre, but there are very good ones. Then there is the middle family, with all this kind of, mostly these kind of portable pair of binoculars. And then there is the outer category with the funny ones and the big ones, or the ones that are not really good for the bird watching that I am doing, which means walking somewhere, seeing somewhere a bird and trying to see it while it's flying away or sitting in a tree or things like that. So the difference is that you would see, well, basically it's the weight, for one thing. With which one do you want to walk? Is it with 200 grams or with 600 grams or more, or 700-800 grams? If you have a backpack of 35 kilos and do you really want to have this for the other 20 kilometers on your back or with you, or do you then choose for this one? Or on the other hand, are you very light, you do a short walk and you only go for bird watching, can you carry this one all the time? Yes, I think so. In general, these ones, the bigger ones, you would have more, I think, more quality for bird watching. But there are reasons why you choose for a little one. Like mostly it's the weight. If you compare them, because the quality is about, you can have the similar quality of them. The difference in it is, well, apart from the weight. Now let's first go for the similarities. Both of them, they have a magnification. So there are figures on it. If you check yourself now the binoculars that you have, you see somewhere figures on it. For instance, 8 times 40. Or here is 10 times 42. But this states 8 times 21. What does it mean? It's the first figure, the 8 or the 10. It means the magnification of it. So how much increases it the image. So this is 10 times, this does 8 times. There's not a lot of difference. There are others, this is also an 8 times, this is an 8, this is 10, an 8, a 7. So that are about the figures of the magnification. And then the other figure, it's times 21, it means the millimeters here, 21 millimeters. And this is 45 millimeters. Here is a 50 millimeters. And this means, so the amount of light that comes in. And also the angle of light that you have. So as a rule of thumb, you would think of the magnification, choose it for bird watching between roughly 8 and 12. Lower as 8, you would not have a magnification enough, you wouldn't see enough, and bigger than that, if you go above the 12, then you tremble so much and it is too difficult to find it, that it's not comfortable either. So yeah, rule of thumb, pick something between 8 and 12 and then you're fine for bird watching, for the common bird watching. And then for the width here, so as you see the heavier ones, they have so a bigger diameter. If you go smaller, the discomfort is that you have a little angle, and if you have a big tree and there is a little bird somewhere and you see it with the eye, and you have then between seeing it, it's hipping somewhere, and you put your binoculars, it has gone a bit and you have just a little angle, you have to look quite a lot to find it. Or if you go for birds of prey and it's just a blue sky with a little black spot in it, it's difficult to see it with these little diameters. And then with a bigger diameter you are more lucky, it's more easy to find it. So that's another figure, and that's a consideration. And the other thing is about the amount of light that it brings in. These ones during daylight they're perfect. In night times you can imagine dusk and dawn, you would have less light that comes in it, so you see less easy you see the colors, whereas here you see more easily the colors. And that's even more valid with this one, with the 50 millimeters. So, but it's very heavy. And then another thing about, because I was saying this one would have mist in it, over the years the manufacturers, they have improved very much the coating of the binoculars. So it is nowadays very good possible to see beautiful colors of the birds, whereas with the old ones you might have a very emotional binding with it, like I had, I must say, with my very first one. I've only 10 years ago I replaced it with this one, and it was just day and night. I was shocked and I could hit myself, because during all these years I thought I had the best binoculars of the world. And in fact I was missing out on birds because it was just, they were in the middle of the fog. And when I replaced it with another one, it was, yes, that was really the best thing in my life that I did, buying a new binoculars. That's why I insist a little bit on this. Now if you reflect to buy a new one and you still have an old one, you think, what do I do with it? Don't dump it. It can be used in Holland. There is a project where they refurbish binoculars, old binoculars, and they send it to the developing countries where biologists, they are doing studies on birds, for instance Morocco and the eastern coast of Africa, the western coast of Africa, where they study birds, and so they can use the professional ones for the professionals, and the more common ones, they would go to school and teaching projects. And so please don't throw them away, and give me a little sign and I will do the rest. I'll let you know how these things work. Then there is this other type of binoculars. There are two here, the outer category. This is one. It's telescope. You see all these birds watchers with the tripods, and then they look very studious. I bought also myself one to try how all these things go. I must say I use it very, very little, especially because I'm here in the forest, and in the forest it doesn't work. Why not? Because the amplification is so much. Here you would stop with about 12. Here it only starts with about 20, and it can go to 40 times or 60 times amplification. So if you have somewhere one bird and you want to see it in particular and see all the feathers, you use this type of telescope. You would use a proper tripod under it. This is just a table thing, which just for the film, but you would have a proper one. And so you fix it somewhere, you stand somewhere, you look on it. Often you look down, there's a prisma in it, a type of prismas, and it goes that way. So this one is a straight one, but there are other ones that you look like this, and then it goes that way towards the bird. You can use that for if you have these waders and these birds that, like a lot of ducks far away, and you would have a line, and they would sit and not move, and you would not have a lot of leaves on the trees and things like that. So then that's comes in quite handy. And this one is still very heavy. My Pride was 20 times 80, so it's amplification 20 times 80 millimeters binoculars. These ones they have only one because it's so expensive to make a second one. But here they did the whole journey. You would fix it because it's so heavy with a little thing on a tripod, and then I would use it same like this in order to spot some ducks somewhere, or some waders, or often water birds, or the full moon, you can see it. And what I do also every now and then is go to the sea and there watch over the sea, and that's another type of bird watching, but really very specific, and you would not need it if you start out. Just forget about these. It's not so like the bigger the better you see them. That's not true. It depends really on how you want to see birds. If you want to use your binoculars, how do you start? Where do you start? Well, if you have it somewhere handy, just the first thing you do and the best thing you do is to hang it around your neck, because if it falls, it doesn't fall very far. Then you adjust this to your eye width, because everyone has different eye width. So my eyes are very wide out of each other, so the binoculars I get are always like this, because here is there is some movement possible, so I can move them and bring them together, wider or closer. And so that's the first thing you do. You stick them in front of your head. Often people they have the binoculars in front somewhere of their eyes. I stick them to my head, just above my eyebrows, but everyone has their preferred spot. Stick it to it, then there's a kind of little tripod, and there, if you do this, you open it, you close it, up to a certain distance, you don't see any black anymore, because normally you would see somewhere black appearing and disappearing and appearing again. So if you don't see any black, you're fine. So that's the first part you do. The second part is to take a subject somewhere you want to see it at roughly 6 to 10 meters. You start looking at it, so you don't see any black anymore, and you do with this ring here. Every binocular is the same. On top here you focus it. So with the focus ring, you adjust it until you see it sharp. So you turn it until you see sharp with your left eye only. You close your right eye. Once you've done that and you're perfectly sharp and focused, you open your right eye with it and you check, are both eyes perfectly fine? Then you're done. That's it, and you have installed your binoculars for your eyes. If the right eye is not correct and there's something blurry in one or the other eye, then you don't move with this one anymore. You start doing on the right eye. Every binocular is the same thing. On the right eye there are these little stripes and plus and minus, and you can turn it a little bit. So you would have your left eye perfectly fine. You open your right eye and then you start to adjust with the right ring until you have the right eye completely fine. So once both eyes are completely sharp and focus, you're happy and you don't move anymore. Your binoculars have been installed for yourself. So that's a good thing. Now, if you give the binocular to someone else, or you get one from someone else just for use, the only thing you change is the angle on on top to get to not to see black, and to do the focus ring to focus. If you use your binoculars in the field, so you don't move it anymore, for the rest you don't touch it, only the top ring, the focusing ring, and you look at it and you have always your finger there, and you move, because the lenses, they go inside, they move a little bit forward and they make focus from what you want to see. It's not autofocus, you have to focus it yourself with this thing. And from there on you're completely fine. I hope that helps, and I would say use them. It's more important to buy, for instance, 2 kind of cheaper ones. These are about 65 euros. Then one very expensive one, like, I don't know, there are, not this one, but this is probably 500. There are of 2,000 euros. If you are together and you discuss about what you see, I see it blue, I see it bright, it's more fun than one, oh yeah, I think, yeah, no, it's a yellow, whatever, oh, it's gone. No one can say anymore. And it's much more fun to have 2 cheap ones than to have 1 expensive one, especially if you leave them at home because it's so expensive. I've had here people who said, no, I didn't bring my Swarovski, I have one, but and then they come with nothing, or with a very cheap one. Yeah, at home I have one, but I never use it. Okay, now whatever you have of pair of binoculars, start using them and enjoy the birds, because it's great. It's great to see them and in all their splendor, and especially since the coatings, they have developed so much the last couple of years, of the decennia. It's really worth to invest in a new one and to enjoy the colors even better, so that you can better see the differences and better see what kind of bird it is. Really, it's worth the effort. In future, what's coming to us is only this week I heard that the brand of Swarovski, one of the top brands, they have developed a pair of binoculars in which you would have a button and you press on it, and then there is kind of computer who recognize the image, and then it gives you probably in text, I don't know how it works, what type of bird you are looking at. So that's a completely new development. So you don't have to walk with your bird book anymore. It is the binocular will tell you what it is. So that's the future. But so far it's not yet, and not yet for common people like us. So I think we still carry a bit on with this course. I hope you liked it, and see you soon. Bye.